What's up, everybody? My name's Nick from Townsend 505. Joining me today is Jason, the old millennial. We're going to be continuing our series we kind of had a pause on.
hmm
Uh, I'm not going to get into the details on that, but we just need a break from that. Now we're here, back stronger than ever. We got through a pretty bad album. We could both agree on
Yeah,
arguably the worst double album we've both ever heard.
yeah.
I don't think any double album could be worse than the last one. It would have to be pretty gosh darn bad. But uh, what are your brief thoughts on soap opera before we begin?
Yeah, I think that's such a huge step up from the last two albums, especially the last album, which was this, yeah, like I said, this weird double album that was going for this very kind of big epic storyline of, government revolution or something, and all. It's a very dark storyline, and so we get to soap opera. This is a much lighter storyline. Overall, it's only a 12-song album. It's a lot shorter. In fact, a lot of songs aren't very long at all. So it's actually a pretty easy album to listen to. Um, we still got a story here. We got a whole story we're going through again because this is like I don't know if he said this time, but he said, of course, before this is their theatrical period, which to me basically means these are kind of like rock musicals. This is basically, it's not like a rock album like you normally would listen to. This is a musical, which different characters, different parts, telling a story. There's a lot of dialogue in scenes, like so. It's like you're listening to an actual, like you're out, you went to Broadway or something or whatever, and you're watching a musical on stage, and but you're listening to it on instead of watching, you're listening to it anyway. So it's very odd at times. It's not something I'm used to listening to. Um, but I mean, it's an interesting idea, and yeah, I guess we'll get into it. But I think definitely I like this much better.
As for my brief thoughts, these next two theatrical albums, they're not great albums, but they're not bad albums. After the abysmal first two theatrical albums, you would think, oh man, this whole period's gonna absolutely suck. But these next two albums we're reviewing are they're good. They're not great, but they're good. Like I'll throw them on every once in a while if I'm in the mood. Like if I'm like, you know what, I don't feel like listening to the best Kinks albums. I just feel like listening to a good Kinks album. And you know, if I don't feel like listening to the five best albums and everybody's in showbiz, I'll probably throw this one on every once in a while if I feel like it, and enjoy it. I enjoy this album. I don't love it. This will never be in my top 100 or not even in my top 500 albums of all time. But it's good for what it is. I enjoyed
Yeah.
it. It's a good album. Like the score is going to reflect on how good it is. It's good. It's a good album. Um, but we get to the very first song on the album. Everybody's a star.
Yeah, so everybody starts off the story, the main character you kind of follow throughout and so it's definitely setting up everything. Is the idea behind this song. And overall, I thought it was actually a really good opener. One of the better songs on the album, and I think it was especially the beginning has a really good guitar riff to begin the song, and pretty good guitar riff throughout the song that I really liked. And it's really upbeat. And I've really, again, I feel like they do a pretty good job for the most part coming up with these upbeat rock songs to start these albums. Um, and it's from what I get from the lyrics is this guy, this main character, maybe he's a rock musician or something, and he has this idea that he can make anybody a star. Everybody's a star. That's the name of the song. There's all these ordinary people. Or I guess that's the next song, but there's all these people, and I can take somebody and make him a star. It sounds like is what he's going for here. Um, and so he's kind of just he's bit arrogant, egotistical, like up the rock star guy. So it's kind of a fun song, and there's a really good guitar solo here as well. So overall, pretty good start to the album.
I agree with you. This is an amazing start to the album, especially compared to That humming thing in the on the first act,
Mhm.
preservation act, and announcement one on
Mhm.
act two. I'm like, we actually have a real song now as our opener.
Yeah, yeah, real
You
song.
know, the last time we had a real song as an album opener was for Everybody's in Showbiz when we had an actual song to work with, which if you didn't know is "Here Comes Yet Another Day," which that song's really good. So you know, it's they're capable of making great album openers. So
Yeah.
when they want to. So this is an example of them making a great album opener. So yeah, this definitely this made my top five. I don't know about you, but this made my top five.
Mhm.
It's a great rock song.
Yeah.
We get to the next song on the album, which you briefly mentioned, "Ordinary People."
Yeah, which is a yeah, ordinary people definitely is kind of this theme of this album is this guy. It's kind of a funny song to me. Starts off with some dialogue of this guy. Kind of, it's a lot of exposition into the story of I'm gonna go be with the ordinary people, and I'm gonna find an ordinary guy, and and all this, and talking about the ordinary people, he's talking down on him, like he's this up rock star guy, and all of us are just ordinary. So it's kind of funny in that sense that uh, how egotistical he is and talking down to the normal blue collar guy or office worker, I guess you can say, and how how much better he is basically than everybody. There's a nice piano here. I really love the female background singers. I think is really what makes this. It's the only time I really think you get the female background singers, and I do love the kind of the chorus of the ordinary people, and the female singers kind of repeat that ordinary people, and uh, I kind of like that the chorus overall, and the idea that he's going to go find an ordinary guy and make him. I think he's going to make him. I'm a little confused by the storyline. I'm trying to make sense of it. That he finds a house. I think he's like, oh, this looks like it's like he's just walking around. He's like, well, this looks like an ordinary house. I'm gonna go see what's going on here. And there's a guy named Norman, and I think he's trading places with Norman. He's gonna pretend to be an ordinary person and live Norman's life. And Norman's, I think, maybe going to be a rock star because it's confusing. Because at the end, like the last song, there's not a lot of talk of Norman, but at the end they mention Norman. So I'm like, okay. It seems like most of the album is through the perspective of this main guy, this character, rock star guy living an ordinary life. So I know it doesn't make a lot of sense, but that seems to be what's going on. So overall as a song, I liked it, and I think it's got some of that Kinks kind of humor into it.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good song on the album too. This did not make my top five though.
Okay.
This kind of barely missed out on the top five spot, but I still think that's a pretty good song on the album. I thought it was pretty good. I agree. The story doesn't really make too much sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
If this was a double album, they probably would have went for both sides of the story. Which last album they proved that they can't make a good double album, so it's better off that they just went with a single album. But if the music was good enough, I would have definitely encouraged the double album to get both sides of the story, so just the one side.
Well, it seems to point that he's going to sleep with Norman's wife, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, and he talks about wearing Norman's pajamas. He's like, oh, these pajamas, like these are terrible, and but then he's going to go to bed with Norman. I don't know. I was like, what is going on?
And
Like,
I know it's just
why
it's
is
a
Norman's wife playing into this?
I know. Why is Norman playing into it besides becoming a rock star? I wouldn't want some random rich guy
Yeah,
with my wife.
yeah. He's living inside the house. He's with the wife. I'm like, this is not doesn't make sense. But
I don't blame you for thinking that. This is a weird
it's weird.
album.
Yeah.
This is a weird album. Um Speaking of weird, we get to the next song on the album, Rush Hour Blues.
All right. So now he's gonna go. He's kind of going under. I don't quite understand why he's doing this, but he's going undercover as Norman, but he's not Norman. Yet everybody's like pretending he's Norman because he's gonna go. I think because he's gonna go to Norman's office job, And like I said, he's in Norman's, I think, house, and he's with his wife, and now he's got to go to Norman's office job, and he's doing this whole undercover thing. I don't get why. He says he's observing the ordinary people. For what purpose? I don't know if it ever makes sense. Because at first it's like, oh, I'm gonna make this normal guy a star. So I'm like, okay, so this is like, a storyline we've seen in a lot of TV shows and movies of, like, you know, Princess Diaries or something, or um, My Fair Lady, and we're gonna take this normal person, make him a star thing. But then most of this takes place with this guy living this ordinary life who's not used to it, and he doesn't like. But this first one, of course, it's about him getting ready for work, and the wife is like, "You're gonna be late. You're gonna be late," and he's like, "Oh, I got time." And that's the whole song. It's just like, I got brushing my hair. I'll make it. And the wife keeps nagging him about, you're gonna be late for work, and he's not used to getting up in the morning going to work. So it's just like a whole new experience for the guy. So that's kind of the whole basis of the song. It's got a boogie woogie, I feel like, feel to it. It's definitely
Uh,
different
yeah.
to everything else in the album, or to whatever Kinks do normally. To me, it was an okay song on the album. Just a lot of these songs feel like just transitional songs to tell the story, but aren't particularly great in their own sense. But
It's kind of like songs from like Tommy, like extra, extra,
yeah,
read all about it, the pinball wizard and the
because like
miracle cure.
we're just gonna tell a story. We're gonna get to this, and we're gonna transition to the next song. And so that, I don't know, it doesn't feel like a complete song necessarily. Just I don't want to say filler, but it's just like, okay, we got to tell the story. So I don't know. So it's, like I said, it's not bad. It's okay, but it's nothing
Uh,
great.
I don't know. I just don't like the song at all. It's so bad.
Okay.
Oh, it's so weird. Like, get a move on, darling. You're cutting fine. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, I think the song is it's just too goofy. Like,
Yeah.
I like me some goofy songs. Jason knows that. The
Yeah.
Crunch by Led Zeppelin. I love
Yeah.
that. Hot
Yeah.
Dog by Led Zeppelin. I love that song. This song is just. I feel like they were more focused on making a goofy song than actually making a song. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
this song is just so stupid. I can't get into it. It's like they're like the songs I like, but there's 5 songs on the album I really don't like, and this is one of them.
Yeah, I can see that.
I really don't like this song. I'm glad you thought it was just okay. I actually had to skip the song halfway through the song after we listened to it. I'm like, nope, 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 not again.
Yeah, it's
As soon,
not it's not one of the strong songs on
yeah,
here.
as, as as soon as that lady was like, "You cutting it fine," I'm like, no, no. Speaking of ordinary shifts, 9 to 5.
Yeah, it says it all. 9 to 5. We all know that is kind of what we say from a normal 8 hour job, or a 40-hour week job. You work 9 to 5. Of course, I don't know if anybody actually works 9 to 5. A lot of times I've worked, like 2 to 10, or
Yeah,
uh, stuff like that, or 6 to 2, whatever. But I never worked actual 9 to 5, which that seems like a pretty cool job. I wish I could. You don't have to get up too early. You don't stay out too late. Actually, kind of cool. But I never got a job like that. But that's the normal kind of office job, is 9 to 5. There's even a whole movie called 9 to 5 with Dolly Parton, and a good song too, 9 to 5. But anyways, this is a different 9 to 5, and it's this guy going to this 9 to 5 job. It's a boring office job. He hates it, which I've never had an office job, so I don't know what it's like to sit there at a desk and you know and be there. But he just describes it, and of course, I think it definitely would be boring if you're like a rock star. In fact, I think that's why people become rock stars, because they don't want a normal job. They're like, I don't want to work 8 hours a day. Like, that sounds boring. I'm going to do something exciting. And so it's a very non-exciting form. But anyways, but overall, I actually really like the song. It's more of a ballad type song to me. It's got a nice piano there. I think I heard an accordion in the background, which I really liked. as well. And it's kind of funny, this guy describing how boring his job is and how much he hates it. So I like this. I like the song overall.
I like this too, actually. I thought this was a great follow up to the abysmal Rush Hour Blues song.
Yeah,
This song is great. I love how it's like you said, he's just like frustrated that he used to be working this 9 to 5, and it's like, see, if your rock star stuff doesn't work, this is where you would end up, kind of like in this situation. So, you know, the star maker, as the first song implies,
yeah,
he doesn't realize how hard it is to kind of break out of that trend of being just an ordinary person. And yeah, the song perfectly depicts that. This made my top 5 as well. If it made yours, it made mine. We get to the next song on the album, "When Work Is Over."
yeah. It's just funny. Even the song titles are really telling this. You can tell what's going on just by the song titles. Because like, all right, he's done with his 9 to 5 job. He's done with his shift. Work is over. He's not very happy. Uh, they're all going to go out to the bar after work. Basically, it really fits in with the next song. They almost are like part one, part two of the same song because it's about the same thing. In fact, I think he even mentions have another drink in the song in this song, maybe, or I might be crazy, uh,
I think he does.
but yeah, he's just talking about. It's a short song if I remember right, and he's just talking about, yeah, we're gonna go out and drink because we just got done with this terrible day of work. Uh, Overall, again, one of the weaker songs to me. It's just okay, not terrible, but it's just kind of almost a filler song for the next one, which I think is a little bit better. But anyways,
I don't care for the song at all.
yeah,
This is the second of 5 songs I just don't like. It just
yeah,
I I think I don't think it's filler because it's an actual song. It's not like just sound
right,
effects that were just kind of fill together. It's
yeah.
not technically filler, but it kind of is filler because it's just kind of like you
I
said.
mean,
It's just
I don't know if you need this song because the next song I feel like does everything you need without this song. I don't know. So it's like it's one of those songs where I'm like, I don't know if you need the song or not, but
yeah, for the story, no, not at all. But going to the next song, "Have Another Drink."
I have no drink. Yeah, so that last is all about okay, work is over, we're gonna go to the bar. So this song, okay, we're at the bar, we're drinking. And I actually really like the song. It's one of my favorite on the album. Um, I thought it was really catchy. I really love the guitar work on here. I thought it was really good. And it's like I like it the whole, it's kind of funny somewhat lyrically, but it's kind of like oh, I had a hard day at work. But like it's almost like go have a drink, of alcohol, and it kind of makes life better, I guess. Which is a sad, if that's your life, that's kind of sad to me because I don't drink really myself. I hardly ever drink alcohol, so it's never been something in my life that I felt like, oh, I need to have a drink of alcohol and make my life better. Uh, I do other things to make my life better. I take the place of alcohol, but some people they need alcohol to feel good, give themselves a buzz. There's definitely, especially in England, that's a huge, culture in Europe. They drink all the time over there. I mean, with every meal they drink.
Hmm.
Anyways, but uh, I think he even says something about. I feel like the lyrics or something like, like have a drink if you're on the brink of suicide or something like that. And I'm like, whoa, it's just like,
I
like
know.
how bad is this job? Like it can't be that bad. I mean, I have my bad days at work for sure, but but it's kind of funny in that sense, just the over exaggeration of how bad work is and how great it is to go have a drink and I guess maybe be with your colleagues or whatever. I don't know what that's like. I've never really done that myself, but I imagine people do that at the end of the day. And it's a highlight of their day. But yeah, overall, I liked it quite a bit.
I really like this song.
Okay.
This is a hidden gem on the album.
Hmm.
If there is any Kink fans who listen to this album, their big song is "Everybody's a Star." That's like the big. Not it's not a hit per se, but it's like a fan favorite on this album. This
Yeah.
song I feel is extremely underrated. I like how it starts kind of like an acoustic song, and then it kind of gets heavier, and It's a really good song on the album. I find it to be extremely underrated. This is in my top 5 for sure. It's a great way to close out the first side of the album. Um, so we flipped the record over. Uh, I do own a copy of this on vinyl. I just don't have it with me right now.
Oh,
So
yeah.
just pretend this is it. Flip it over. We get to underneath the neon sign.
Okay, this is my theory of listening to this album again. Just because I just now listened to it just before this review, is I wonder. I don't know if this is still this guy or this is Norman point of view. Because some of these songs I feel like maybe is Norman. They don't really make that clear, which is I think maybe a flaw of this album that it doesn't quite make sense. The storyline and what's going on. It doesn't tell a really good cohesive story necessarily. Um, but I really like. Okay, I'll say this. I really like the song. Actually, it's one of my favorite on the album. And I think lyrically, I really love the song. I think it's one of the best lyrical songs on the album. But it seems like all I know is that he's like in a big city, and I think it's nighttime. And it, I'm not from big cities, but I think if you're in a big city, there's like it's lit up by neon signs and lights everywhere. Like I think if you go to New York City, Times Square is it's got all these lights. There's this like big there's this
Yeah,
built big screen on it. I think that shows stuff. I've never been there, but I just seen
yeah,
pictures.
yeah, yeah. You're right. That's how Manhattan looks like.
Manhattan. Okay. Yeah, it's this huge thing. So I always think of Times Square as like, yeah, I can see that like at nighttime it's just lit up by all these lights, in the big city, which is different when you're from a smaller area. You don't have quite as many lights. Or if you're like me, you're from a small town, Kansas, there's not hardly any lights at all. But so anyways, so I'm not sure what's going on exactly, except that he's like I think in the city it's nighttime and he's singing about this or about the neon sign lighting up the city, and it's kind of interesting how he's talking about, I can't see the stars because of the neon lights, just kind of, and I don't know if it's day or night because of how light it is that with the neons, and he's talking about don't need the sun. I'm gonna bathe in. I don't need the sunshine. I'm gonna bathe in the neon sign. I really love some of the lyrical content, like how they rhyme the words. One he's like, yeah, I don't know if it's day or not, or I can't see something. We'll just look at the traffic lights, instead of stars, in the or moonlight. I think something about the moonlight, because usually if you're in a more rural area, the stars and the moon light up, kind of are the lights that you go by. But here you can't see the moonlight, you can't see the stars. All you see is these neon lights lighting up the city. And so I just love that contrast of we can't see the sky, but we'll look at neon lights and we'll look at the traffic lights because there's lots of traffic in big cities. So that lights up your city. I don't know if it's saying in a negative or positive sense. Because to me, from being from a small town, I think I'm not a big fan of big cities. And so I think it's almost negative. Like I do love looking outside and seeing the moon and the stars. It's kind of cool at nighttime. But anyway, saying that, overall, yeah, I really love the lyrics here. I think vocally, I think it's one of the better songs vocally for because a lot of times he's putting on a different. Again, he Ray Davis, I'm guessing, lead singing and everything. He puts on a different voice sometimes in some of the songs, and it's a little annoying. It's not like his regular singing voice sometimes. So I like this. It sounds like more of his regular singing voice. But I really like the guitar, and I thought it was actually really catchy. He ends a lot of his verses or chorus with underneath the neon sign. I don't know. It's like got really nice catchiness ending each line. Anyway, so I think it's actually a really good song on the album.
I think it's okay. It's not one of my favorites on the album, to be honest. Mm, I don't hate it per se, like the other ones I was talking about before, but this is one of my least favorites on the album. I just don't care for it as much. But then again, maybe if I listen to it more, I might get it. I like it, but I just don't love it. It's just an okay song.
Mhm.
Of the weaker songs for me, I feel like this is like the best out of the weaker songs.
Yeah.
We get to the next song on the album, Holiday Romance.
Okay, this song, this is one of the worst songs on the album. I don't get what's going on in the song for the most part. Again, I don't know if this is Norman's point of view. Um, and it's very weird. The music is just so different. I call it hokey. I don't know how to explain it. To me, it's this very hokey style of sing along that I did not like. It was really annoying. And the way he sang, he just had a weird voice when he sang, like he's put on a character. Um, and the whole story seems to be that he's in the subway and he sees like posters of places to take vacations. So he decides to go on a vacation. Again, this it almost doesn't flow with the rest of the album. Like I don't get what this has to do with the story at all. But he goes on vacation and he sees a girl named Vivian or something like that. I can't remember. And and of course it's called holiday romance. So it's like, oh, he likes this girl, and so he starts, hanging out with her. And is it just a holiday romance, or is this a love story, or something like that? Um, it kind of goes through that. I will say it does have that Kinks humor at the end, though. That I kind of do like the ending because he's like infatuated with this girl, and then ends with her. He wants to kiss her at the end, but then she says, "Better not. My husband's gonna come pick me up." And he's like, "Okay, this is just a holiday romance. It's not gonna be a love story." Uh, so I I think Queen does it better with in only 7 days. I think it's like a similar idea that's done way better in my opinion. But yeah, I don't know. I'd be interested. I hear I'm bagging the song. I don't know what you feel like, but I was not into this one.
So I will agree. I think Queen does it way, way better. But then again, Queen is my second
Yeah,
favorite artist, so I'm gonna be a little biased towards Queen. Who knows? Maybe Briar might stop by and say hi after hearing us talk about Queen. Who knows? But Queen, Queen, Queen. I like the song, but
okay.
it's more for the end of it, though. You kind of
Yeah, the end is
like most of the song. I'm like, but like at the end, I'm like, oh, okay, okay, that was pretty good.
yeah.
I like it, but this is not a top 5 song though, so
uh,
it's okay.
uh,
It's okay for the most part, but that ending kind of elevates it a tiny bit.
yeah, yeah.
We get to the next song of the album. You make it all worthwhile.
This is kind of a weird song. It's definitely very dialogue heavy song compared to a lot of songs here. And again, now I think this is back to the rock star guy pretending to be Norman, and he's coming home. And it's funny, the whole story is it's a kind of a simple story than just going to work sucks, go out, drink, and then come back home to the wife. And that's what right here. And the wife's making supper and or dinner, and it's a bit more of a I don't know slower song. It's got some nice strings. It felt like this almost felt like I'm thinking this feels like a musical that we're listening to, like this musical that's never actually been, never been a musical. But it feels like the big song of the album almost because he does crescendo at the end, and he does have a little bit of uh, like I said, gets kind of more uh, emotionally invested. I don't know how to say it towards the end, and he's singing a little bit louder. There's the strings are swelling up. It feels like the big number of the musical that we're getting to, or something like that. Interesting enough, and it's a weird song in some senses. Like it's like he had this bad day at work, but then he says, "Oh, coming home to his wife," but it's not his wife; it's Norman's wife. So I don't know how long he's been working there, how long this whole album takes place over, because it feels like it takes place over one day, but he's but then I'm like, oh, has he been doing this for a long time, like this, what's going on? But I mean, it's a nice sentiment that he's like, oh, work sucks, but it's all worthwhile because I get to come home to my wife, not my wife, but Norman's wife, and and her smile, and she makes dinner. But then it goes into she's like, "Oh, I made this," and he's like, "Oh, I hate that." But he's like, "It's okay." And then she's like, kind of, it's almost a fight, I think, but not quite. And he's like, "Okay, whatever, we'll just eat this. It's okay." And so it's like life isn't that great because he's not having a great meal, but yeah, he's still saying, his this woman is making all worthwhile of a bad day. And then they have some like pudding or something at the end. He's like, oh, I like that. And but I do like the overall chorus of it. The you when he's singing about you make it, especially towards the end. Like I said, the strings and everything help it. You make it all worthwhile, and it's got some nice stuff there. But overall, I wasn't a huge fan of the song.
I don't care for the song at all. I respect the place. I expect what it is for the album, but I don't know. This song is just so. I don't know. I just don't get the song at all. I just don't care for it. Just pretty brief about that. Um, it doesn't get better either because the next song is the worst song on the album, "Ducks on the Wall." I think that song is just horrible. I'm just gonna review that first. I think it's the worst song on the album. I the beginning's awful and it doesn't really get
Oh,
better after that either.
this is such a weird song, and I'm trying to figure out what I think. This is the Rockstar guy talking about the house, and the wife decorates it with ducks. I guess I don't know if that's it's wallpaper or what. And I think this really boring life is getting to him, and he's starting to go crazy at this point, and to the point where it's all about the ducks, these ducks on the wall, and he's going crazy for some reason. Like he hates looking at these ducks, I guess, and even to a point where he's hallucinating. The ducks are like he said, the ducks are moving, the ducks are talking back to him. He hates these ducks on the wall, and yeah, it's the most annoying song on the album because there's some duck noises and they are so annoying. Whatever. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, you're right. The beginning was so terrible with these duck, kind of supposed to be a duck quack or something. And it's like, but it sounds terrible. Yeah, this is, yeah, definitely one of the songs where it was not needed on this album. It really does make much sense into the whole overall story of the album. And it's just plain annoying.
Well, now that we got that out of the way, we get to the next song on the album, "A Face in the Crowd."
I actually quite like the song. I thought it was really nice piano. I thought it had a really nice melody to it. It's more of a ballad. I thought it was pretty and all that. And it seems to be now seems back to Norman where he's talking about like again, we haven't really talked much about Norman, I felt like, and then all of a sudden this song comes up and it's like talking about Norman like talking about like he's not gonna make it as a rock star or something like that. And he's has to settle to just being a face in the crowd, just being a normal person, he's just gonna be an ordinary person living an ordinary life, and I guess that's his, but it doesn't make, I don't know, it doesn't seem like we earn that storyline throughout the album. So it's like, huh, where's this coming from? All of a sudden Norman's coming into view of we haven't talked about him being a rock star or anything, but now all of a sudden he wants to come back, I think, to or and but I like the whole idea of, yeah, you're just another, I feel that way, a lot of us feel that way, we're just another face in the crowd. We're nothing special. That's kind of what the song is about. And I guess it's a little bit of a downer, but overall, I really like the song. I thought it was really nice. It's short. It's a nice melody to it. It's actually one of my favorite on the album.
Yeah, I think this is another great song on the album. I agree. It's very sad of of a song, but I think it works well for the story, much better than having ducks on the wall. I don't know what the
uh,
hell that was supposed to be about.
yeah.
And this is another not fan favorite, but this like definitely a song that would be talked about if you talk about this to a Kinks fan. This is definitely one of the more favorite songs on the album, and for good reason. This is a pretty nice song on the album. We get to the last song on the album. You can't stop the music.
All right. So we ended with this. Overall, I thought it was an okay song. Uh, Not one that made my top five or anything, but it's all right. Um, and it's just about going back. I think they've decided that they kind of switched lives. I think they decided to go back to the regular or something like that. I don't know. Or it's still more about Norman maybe going back to his normal life or something. I don't know. And then they do kind of reprise the whole idea of everybody's a star. They do talk about, I remember that in the lyrics they mentioned something about, kind of the first song about everybody can be a star or something like that. Um, I don't know if it's a great conclusion to the album or the story, but yeah, I think the Facing the Crowd was a better closer, to be honest. But I could end with that song maybe. I don't know if I need this extra song here, but uh, yeah, it's all right.
I actually really like this song. This made my top five. I think it's a nice way to end off the album. I will agree, though. I think the previous song should have been the last album song on the album. But I think this is a good song too. I like the sort of tenderness of it at the end. But yeah, this is great song on the album, and it ends off on a great note. The first song's great, and I think the last song's great. So good bookends, which is
Right.
good. What's your top five going to look like?
All right. So I went with number five. I went with Ordinary People. Number four, I went Have Another Drink. Number three, Everybody's a Star. Number two, Underneath the Neon Sign. And number one, I went with A Face in the Crowd.
Cool. We shared four of our five
Really?
songs, which is cool. I'm not sure. I'm not saying about the order, but like in general, that's cool. Number five. I'm gonna say You Can't Stop the Music. Number four. I'm gonna say 9 to 5. Actually, no, three songs because yeah,
Yeah,
Ordinary People barely missed the top five. That Ordinary People's a honorable track. Number four, 9 to 5. Number three, Everybody's a Star. That's a great song. Number two, Have Another Drink. Number one, Face in the Crowd.
really. Face in the
Really,
Crowd.
really like that song. That should have been the closing track. I agree.
Yeah.
What's your score gonna look like?
Yeah. So I think I said this song's, I mean, this album's definitely a step up from the last couple, and like Muswell Hillbillies towards the bottom of my list. It's far from their best stuff. The what's it called?
Their pop period and everybody
Yeah,
in shows.
their pop period. Something that was something else by the Kings.
Yeah,
Face to Face, kind of Kinks. Is that one? I think I gave a pretty good score.
yeah. You
Uh,
gave those three albums 8 out of 10.
yeah, I gave those, and then you got the three nines, which was Preservation Society, Arthur and Lola. Those are like kind of the big period. So it's definitely far from those. I mean, it's not nearly as good as those albums, but better than a lot of their stuff that's not been very good. And mostly and again, a lot of songs actually I didn't think were too bad. There's not like a really great, like none of the songs, even my top song, is not going to make it on like a playlist probably, because I just have too many good songs on the playlist right now. So I feel like I don't think I need to put Face in the Crowd on the playlist. There's not a song that definitely is going to stand out. Like I'm going to come back to this album because I have to listen to this song. And the Holiday Romance, You Make It All Worthwhile, and Ducks on the Wall definitely were such. Those came right in a row, and those were the bad songs. I think the first half I think was much better than the second half. I would say that. Like I actually quite enjoyed the first half of the album. Second half is where the bad stuff comes up. So, anyways, I'm gonna go with a 7.5.
Ooh, okay. So yeah, I'm gonna say it. I think 7 out of the 12 songs are really good. I think they're really good songs, really good to good songs. Five of the songs though range from awful to just plain okay. And for that, I'm gonna also give this a 7.5 out of 10.
Oh, really?
It's a good album. Like I said, I mentioned it before. It's a good album. Not a great album, not a bad album, but a good album.
Yeah, I mean, I'm putting it ahead of like I think the first two albums. I think this is better than maybe the first two,
Yeah.
and better than Percy even for me. But then that's about where it's at. Below most everything else, except I mean, besides the really bad ones I already mentioned, the last two albums and most Little Hillbillies.
Yeah. Yeah, those Preservation Act
One, two.
albums are rough. But 1 and 2, yeah. But this is the second last theatrical album we'll be reviewing. The next album will be the very last album, Schoolboys in Disgrace. It's the last album we have to listen to in this theatrical period. Excited for that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of this theatrical. Of course, you said most people aren't, I guess, but
I'm not into it either, so
yeah, I don't know why I can't quite get into it. Like I can get into, I don't know, I can get into Tommy, and I love musicals, so I can get into a lot of stuff. I like the idea behind it. Maybe it's just the Kinks
Just wasn't
version.
just yeah, it was just wasn't executed right.
Yeah, maybe it's just not executed right by the Kinks. I don't know. Not maybe just not anybody can do this style.
Yeah.
Like Pink Floyd does it well with like Dark Side of the Moon. I think has a similar maybe, but
Kind of. But that show concluded for that. Staying tuned for that album. I think it might be Friday in the afternoon. So staying tuned for that. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Have a good one.